Welcome to the Senior Safety Advice Podcast, your trusted source for expert guidance on aging safely and independently. Whether you're a caregiver, a family member, or a senior looking to stay secure at home and beyond, we've got you covered. From fall prevention and home modifications to financial safety and scam awareness, we provide practical tips to help you or your loved ones live with confidence. Tune in and empower yourself with the knowledge you need to navigate the challenges of aging. Let's make safety simple.
Hello and welcome back to the Senior Safety Advice Podcast. I'm your host, Esther Kane. Today I wanted to talk about something that may not seem like a topic for aging in place or senior care or even for caregiving for seniors. But the truth is, it's the very first step that should be taken if you're planning to grow older in your home. Obviously, most of you probably want to stay in your home. Now, I think AARP reports 90% of older adults want to continue staying in their home, and I can't blame them. I would too. So the very first step that I think personally, and you can certainly let me know in the comments here in the podcast, is to declutter, to make the space in your home accessible, easy to get to, easy to get around, and easy to use. All right, so before I get into the article or the information on the podcast, please subscribe to our podcast. Of course, you can take a look also at our YouTube channel, but we appreciate each and every single one of our subscribers. You can get notified of any new updates. We do podcasts and videos as often as we possibly can, amongst all the information that we're always putting out on seniorsafetyadvice.com. All right, so decluttering. Decluttering can make your home safer and easier to manage, of course. And these are very, very important factors, I think, for older adults. Honestly, for everyone, but for older adults especially, whether they're aging in place or whether, you decide to move to a smaller home. That's what I did. I moved from a larger home with my husband after he passed away. I moved into a smaller home, and it took quite a while to go through the decluttering process. Well, for me, it was more not just the decluttering, but it was just the emotional impact of him passing away. Anyway, so the first step that I took to declutter my space was to tackle one section at a time. So what I did was I literally sat down, took a day, and just wrote down an entire list of every section of the home that needed to be cleaned up, which was quite a bit. It was a very large home, 4,700 square feet. It was, and here in Georgia, that's not too uncommon. There are quite a few large homes here. And it was, had 11 closets. My husband had 10 of them. Yes, he very much liked his clothes and accessories and everything else. But what I did is in the list, I broke it down to each section. So if there were 11 closets, well, there were 11 closets, I would break it down to the top part of the closet, the left side of the closet, the bottom of the closet. I broke it down that way. So it would probably take 4, 5, 6 days to empty out that one closet. Since I was doing it by myself for the most part, I mean, at the beginning, my friends and family came to help, which was excellent. But after that, I needed to, do it myself. I couldn't rely on them for the entire house. So unless you're going to take out what you need and do an estate sale, which I would recommend if you're going to move or plan to get on all new furniture or anything, I would recommend to do it on a bit-by-bit basis. So the trouble is getting rid of things that you've become attached to. And most older adults that I know are very attached to their things, something from their mother, something from their father, something someone gave to them for Christmas 20 years ago. There's all kinds of emotional attachments. If you have 30 items of one thing, a collection item, it could be anything, little statuettes, whatever. If it's taking up a ton of space, that's difficult to maintain, maybe to dust, to clean that space, there's no place to put them, then, I mean, it would be better to either put them somewhere that makes it easier to clean behind a glass case or, that's mounted on the wall and away from space. And it also would be easier, perhaps, if it's possible, to just take photographs of them and keep just a handful of items. And you don't necessarily need all 50 unless you have the space for them. So whether you're downsizing to a smaller space or just trying to make the living space that you're in as safe as possible, then getting the stuff organized or clearing it out completely will make the house easier to maintain and easier to use if you ever got to the point where you needed a cane, a walker, or a wheelchair. All right, so how can you, as the adult child or family caregiver of an older adult, how can you help them to declutter? Let's face it, convincing them to get rid of their stuff is really probably most likely going to be a very difficult task. There never seems to be a good time to approach the topic. And when you do, you might be met with anger or, just dismissal of it. So I liked what Vicky Dell'Aquila, I hope I pronounced that correctly. She has written some books. She's a professional organizer, and she's written books on the topic of decluttering. And she has a website called organizationrules.com, which, I love that, which is true. When things are organized, somehow you feel less stressed, you feel less anxious. It's just easier to maintain your life. And I love the quote from a movie, and I can't remember the name of the movie, but the quote is to go out and live an ordinary, extraordinary life. I think most everyone would love to do that, and I think one of the ways to do that is to have an organized, easy to maintain, easy to access home. So that's really why I wanted to write this article on decluttering, and doing this podcast on that topic. All right, so the organizer, Vicky Dell'Aquila, I hope I pronounced that again correctly, she outlined in her book 10 reasons why older adults have such a difficult time parting with so many of the things that are in their homes. And some of them may seem very obvious and some may not. So number one is the sentimental attachment. Now, a lot of people have sentimental attachment to things. I don't have that as much, only because in my lifetime I've moved around quite a bit, and it just became easy for me to let go of things as I moved. It's much easier to move with, a suitcase of items than it is to move with a truckload of items. That's for sure, especially when you're going from country to country. So the sentimental attachment is normally, very natural and very human. So the best way to deal with this is to minimize the space that these items take up. So instead of boxes of old photos, keep the photos, but convert them to DVDs. A DVD can hold a lot more photos than a box. Take a few of the photos and put them in a photo album, and get rid of the other photos. When I started getting rid of the photos when I was moving, is the very first thing I did was to get rid of photos that didn't have any people in them. A photo of a tree or a photo of a rock or, a mountain range. I mean, all of those were nice, but honestly, I couldn't even tell where they were anymore because it'd been so long. So I just kept the photos that had people that I knew, because there are sometimes photos of people you don't know, unless, of course, they're old family photos. Even if you don't know them, they are family that probably you never met, or maybe you never met. So those I can certainly see. But converting them to DVDs is a great way to keep all the photos and as many photos as you want, instead of having them on all these boxes. So instead of closets of clothing like my husband had, take some of these clothes, create a quilt or shadow boxes with pieces of clothing. I know a friend of mine did this with a lot of her children's clothes, and then she gave the quilts to them. Instead of keeping an entire set of china that you never use, keep one plate or one set as a decoration, in your hutch or on a shelf, and discard the rest. Get rid of the rest, because this is for things that you mostly do not use. Number 2 is the sense of loyalty that people have attached to an item, especially if the item was a gift. And the solution here is really to encourage re-gifting, to pass it forward. My mom had a crock pot that was given to her a few Christmases, a while ago. And she hadn't used that crock pot in 3 years. So I told her that her granddaughter could certainly use that crock pot, and it would be a great gift for her to have. So knowing that she was able to help someone, especially a family member, with this item versus it just sitting on the, in the back of the cabinet collecting dust, helped her to get rid of that crock pot and make some space in there, and just something that she didn't use. So take a look around. One thing you can do is you can tag items. That may take a while if you have a lot of items, but you can tag items, like maybe put an orange sticker on everything, and, mark it on your calendar that a year from now or 6 months from now, whatever time frame you want to use, although I wouldn't go past a year, but a year from now, go through your items again. And if it still has that orange sticker, because every time you use it, you're going to take out the sticker. So, but if a year later, that sticker is still on there, that means you haven't used that item for a year. Then it may be time to stick it in a box, put it in the car, give it to Goodwill, so that someone who needs it can use it, or give it to a family member or neighbors, anything at all to help get it out. A lot of people do this with their clothing. They hang clothes a certain, the hanger is a certain way. And when they use that piece of clothing, then they put the hanger up a different way. And at the end of the year or 6 months, whatever, all the hangers that had clothes that had not been, changed over, had means that they weren't used in that year, and that's a good way to know what clothing to get rid of. I just did that in my closet, actually. I started doing that, and I keep doing that every year. All right, so number 3 is the need to conserve. If your parents lived through hard times, like my parents did, they'll most likely be very conservative about the things that they're holding on to. Things like my mom-in-law was very famous for reusing her tea bags. I mean, she would use them 5, 6, 7 times to the point where, honestly, I don't think there was any more tea in there. But she just couldn't let go of that habit. She would keep an old pot, even though the handle was broken. She just would use something else to manage the pot. She held on to a vacuum cleaner that was so incredibly heavy. I barely could move that vacuum cleaner, and she at some point couldn't anymore. But she just couldn't let go of it because it was a functioning vacuum cleaner. But at the same time, it didn't serve her any purpose and took up a ton of space in the hall closet. I understand that for those things, it's difficult for, to give things away that still work. Believe me, I understand that. But again, the solution is that if you yourself are not using it or are unable to use it, like that vacuum cleaner, then think about the people who could use it, that you could be helping them. It's a charitable type of thing. So I would recommend to, speak to your family member, your older family member, from that angle and see if that could persuade them to let go of that item. Then replace it, with something that they can use better, easier. Number 4 is the fatigue. I mean, when you're looking at so much clutter, when you open up that pantry or that closet or that cabinet or walk into the garage and you just see so much there, it can be overwhelming. It can be depressing. It can cause a great amount of fatigue. So I understand that. It's, even things like mail, if you don't go through your mail every day and immediately put things in the shredder, then it's going to accumulate. And at some point, it's just overwhelming to look at that. So you can work on this again by one, doing things on a daily basis, like the mail, cleaning up spaces in small increments, like I said at the beginning of the podcast. Pick a section. Even if you can't do the entire drawer, everybody has a junk drawer in the kitchen. Even if you can't do the entire drawer, do a portion of it, or give yourself a time limit. I'm going to spend 10 minutes on this drawer. Set the clock and spend 10 minutes getting rid of whatever. And then do that 10 minutes the next day, and then the next day. It may take you a week. It may take you 10 days or 2 weeks to do it, but it doesn't matter. It is in the process of getting done. And that's the way you can accomplish it, in bits and pieces. And just like anything, just like a diet or just like your health care, brushing your teeth, taking vitamins, do it every day. Make a list of every single corner of your home and tackle a corner, a section, a drawer, a part of the closet, anything, every single day. Believe me, it will get done. It took me a year to clean out the home my husband and I had. But I intended it to be a year because everyone told me, do not make a major decision like moving while you're in this emotional state. So I gave myself a year, and that's what I did. So I hope that helps. All right. So number 5. So change in health. If the older person that is living in the home is unable now to physically do any of this type of work of decluttering, that's where organizations like care.com, or hiring someone, or getting family members or friends to come and help. That's when it's so important, because the truth is that, having furniture that's too big in the space, for a walker or a wheelchair, or even if you're not using a walker or wheelchair, as we all get older, it's easy for our balance to become compromised. So it's too easy to bump into a coffee table or a chair. And because we're getting older, our skin gets thinner. It's easier to get cuts and bruises and bumps. And my mom-in-law had constantly had bruises and bumps on her legs because she could not get rid of her furniture, even though it was way too big for the space. But she just couldn't do it. And as a result, she ended up with lots of cuts, and some of them turned into infections, and it's just not worth it. So yes, so if the person is unable to physically do any of the work, then that's when it's time to call in for some help. And number 6 is the fear. I mean, change is frightening for most people. Let's admit it. But it's especially frightening for seniors. I mean, already so much is changing in their lives. Their physical appearance is changing. I know mine has. Their abilities are changing. Their abilities to, their work. Maybe they're retired now, so their regular routine is changing. Children might be moving away for jobs to other places. Family are passing away. Everything is changing. Everything in life is changing, and it's very frightening to all of us. So the solution here for anyone is really to be as pragmatic as possible. Try not to be emotional when it comes to the issue of decluttering, and to remove items slowly. My late husband had an extremely difficult time giving up his stuff. He still had things from high school in his closet, which I don't get it, but some of you may. His home office was packed with so many knickknacks. And then what helped him and me before he passed away was to work together to just remove a few items at a time. Instead of giving them away, what we really did was just take some items, put them in a box, and put them in the attic or put them in the garage. This way, it's not that they were necessarily gone forever. They were just put someplace else. It was the easiest way for me to get him to begin the process of decluttering, although he passed away before we accomplished a lot of it. But he agreed that if he did not need that item or did not want it in the next 6 months, then we could give it away. So that was our way of beginning to alleviate the fear of change. He did not like change. It did not bode well with him. So this was an easy way for him to begin the process of decluttering. All right. So number 7 is, the dream of the future. My husband always, he had so many, when he passed away, I think I packed 7 or 8 saws, like the hand saws. Why did he have 7 or 8 hand saws? It's not like we lived out in the woods and he needed to cut wood. It was interesting, but he would always, when he came home with a tool that he already had several of, or another blue shirt that he had 20 of, or whatever, he would always say, we may need it in the future. If this thing breaks, I'll have another one. We may need it in the future. And okay, yeah, in our 25 years together, that did come true once or twice. But was it worth keeping so much stuff in the house? In my opinion, no. The solution here, of course, again, is the same. Takes, if there were 8 saws, I would have preferred if he took 7 of them, put them away, used the one, and after 6 months, if he didn't use those other 7 or other 6, let's get rid of them. But he, anyway, it's a tip. So number 8 is the love of shopping. I have a friend whose mom was a bit of a shopping addict. Today, you don't even have to leave your home to go shopping. She was addicted to QVC. And I don't even know, is QVC still even on TV? But anyway, with Google and Amazon, it's so easy to go shopping online anymore. Even if you can't get out to go shopping, you can have things delivered to you almost every single day, if not every day. So the only solution here is to try to have a candid one-on-one with the senior person, your parent or relative, about the problem, especially if, one, the shopping is adding to the clutter, but mostly if the shopping is adding to the debt. That's what was happening with my friend's mother. There was just so much debt being accumulated because of all this shopping. And sometimes it may be useful to have a third party, like um, a social worker or a financial planner or anyone there to help you, drive the message home and the importance of that kind of message. And if there's any type of cognitive decline in the person, dementia, Alzheimer's, anything at all that may be causing them not to have proper reasoning and causing them maybe to, fall for financial scams or not be able to control their expenses, then you may want to begin the process of speaking with an elder law attorney about how you can take over some of these issues so that it doesn't become a huge problem later on. Okay, number 9 is the history and memories that a lot of these items represent. It could be items that you got on vacation. My husband loved to collect Christmas ornaments every place we traveled, and we traveled a lot. So we had a lot of those Christmas ornaments, and honestly, I still have them because one, they don't take up a ton of space, and they only come out once a year. But he did love the history and, the memory of each of those ornaments and the trips that we took. Things like that are certainly fine to keep as long as, again, they don't clutter up the space and cause an unsafe environment. And then number 10 is the loneliness that can occur in a lot of older adults. I can certainly tell you from personal experience that loneliness easily leads to depression and anxiety. I suffered with that greatly, and I've never suffered with that in my life. But after he passed away, it was something I could not get rid of. But it's been 10 years now, so it's certainly more tolerable. But it's not uncommon for anyone who is lonely to compensate by surrounding themselves with lots of things, by going out shopping, and then just filling up their house with all kinds of things. But it's a substitute. It's a substitute, obviously, for the fact that you're lonely. It would be much better, of course, to volunteer at organizations, to get out, to, get involved in projects. It could be, writing a book, getting into art class, anything at all that would get you up and out, getting to a local coffee shop, spending 2 hours a day there, anything at all to get you out versus shopping and filling your house with more stuff and getting more and more things in. That's my own personal advice. That has helped me quite a bit, and I would encourage you to encourage the senior loved ones in your life to do that as well. And if you're a senior person, of course, I myself am a senior, so I can tell you from experience, loneliness is very easy to creep up in our lives as we get older and our families and friends, pass away or move on to other places. All right, so I hope that these 10 reasons and tips can help you to understand, one, what's happening, why there is this issue of decluttering and why maybe yourself or the older adults in your life are having so much trouble with it. It could be any one of these 10 issues. It could be a combination of several of them. Whatever it is, it's extremely important to begin taking action as soon as possible. Don't wait to break a hip or fall and injure yourself in any way, shape, or form. Don't wait until there's just so much in the house that you simply can't move around. I think decluttering is the number one step to aging in place, and I hope you do too. All right, I look forward to your comments. Let us know what you think of this podcast and let us know what you've been doing to help to declutter. If you have any tips that I haven't mentioned, I am so looking forward to it. And again, don't forget to subscribe, give us your reviews, and I will talk to you next time. Take care.
That's it for today's episode of the Senior Safety Advice Podcast, helping you and your loved ones stay safe, independent, and informed. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe and share it with others who could benefit. For more expert tips and resources, visit seniorsafetyadvice.com. And remember, staying safe starts with staying informed. Until next time, take care and stay safe.